Welcome back to We Are Tottenham TV. It's finished. Tottenham 1, them lot 4. You're here with me, Marlon, and Ashmack from Spurs Kings TV, and also Do Rag Diaries. Boys, let's unpack that. Look, first half went in at 1-1. Was you confident coming out in the second half, or did you see the mistakes that were probably hindering us in that second half?
I think sometimes, you have to be balanced in life and remember what's important to you. You've got loved ones and you make sure you keep them close. And you kind of... I'm joking.
No, I got where you was going. I was going down that route as well. I was going to say, life is bigger than football, guys. Life is, you got to focus on, go and touch grass, you got
smell the air,
be on the ground, all of that good stuff. But, no, God, like, the game itself...
Listen, I don't know where to start. The first half, maybe I should start there.
Yeah.
First half, obviously, they dominated the first 10 minutes. We didn't really have much to talk about. Then, there was a little interference, thank goodness, by the linesman. They had a lack of communication. That stopped. We kind of regrouped. Trudeau had a little word. And then I thought that little 10 minutes helped us because... by then it was 20 minutes, into the game. And I think they kind of had our number, I'd say. The first 15, 20 minutes, they were creating shots. They were dominating possession in certain areas. But at the same time, they weren't really doing much with it. Do you know what I mean? They weren't really... I was happy for them to have the ball there. I was happy to do what they're doing, as long as it wasn't in the back of their net. That was my hopium talking in my head. Then we obviously did... get a little chance, a little small glimmer, little half chance. And, I thought, okay, that's our way in. Just pump it long, give it to Moani, maybe Xavi runs off of him, and that's the tactic moving forward. Fast forward, they score first. They scored a goal first. And then I was like, yeah, we could see it was coming, No one was really too surprised. Saka obviously causing a lot of menace down that right-hand side. And it had to be no one else but Eze. Eze gets that first touch. Remember before I said at the start of the game, it's going to be the Eze versus Xavi. Yeah. Because that's been the rivalry at the moment. And Eze just gets that little half chance and he puts it in the back of the net. And at 1-0, we're like, here we go. But then, it was a little bit of positivity. We, out of nothing, ball pumped long again. We win that ball back high up the pitch. Moani gets onto it, makes a mistake from Rice, of all people, and then we score that goal. And we're back in the game, it's 1-1. And we kind of see out the half, to be fair. And we were like, what do we need to do differently? What changes do we need to make? Do you think it was correct? Maybe just keeping them with the same team, or maybe do we go a bit more attacking? And I thought the whole time when Trudeau was there, and we said it, he was trying to encourage them to get up the pitch, win the ball higher up, win your duels, etc., create havoc in that area. And then the second half happened. You guys carry on from here because I'm talking a lot.
I love how you just spoke out the bits that you like to speak about and go straight into the bad. But no, I think it has to be addressed. Second half was just awful, people. We just have to be honest. We conceded 3 goals, an early one. Gyökeres with a really strong finish, and to be fair, that goal sort of set the mood for how the second half was going to go. He linchpinned Dragusin, used his strength to create that little bit of space. For that goal in particular, it was Paulinho that left him open for that little bit of space. But then for a lot of the times in that second half, you just saw him getting the better of both centre-backs, Paulinho and Dragusin. Gyökeres really started to grow in confidence and start to cause us a lot of problems in those open spaces. Arsenal started to do the long balls down the channels. Now that they had that sort of lead, that you start to see the confidence growing in them. Spurs just, as we've seen majority of the times throughout the season, once we concede, the heads go down and you can start to see that we're not getting back into the game. And then that disallowed goal for... some people are going to say it's a light touch, but regardless, it was a touch in the back. So VAR is always going to go with the on-field decision, which was, it is what it is at the end of the day. Spurs didn't really show enough quality in the game to progress the ball from the midfield to the attack. Xavi getting on the ball a lot, but really didn't have the runners beyond him to really create anything. And Spurs just saw, and the golfing quality between us and Arsenal ultimately. In that second half, they were just so much better than us on the ball as they really started to get freedom. And yeah, look, to be honest, people, it was just Arsenal, men versus boys.
Did you feel sorry for like Xavi?
I do. No, I generally do, because I think you can see a real quality player there. And, when you have a player of that quality, people always say when you surround him with good players, you'd start to see the best of him. We're not surrounding him with good players at the moment. We had a midfield of Conor Gallagher, Sarr, Bissouma and Paulinho. We have 4 players in the centre of our pitch that can't move the ball. That are the best player on the ball there is Bissouma, and he's not that good. He makes mistakes, like we saw for the 3rd goal. So ultimately, many of the same problems that we've seen at Spurs over the course of this season. And I think, Marlon, you're probably going to get into it. It's not much has changed.
No, that's the thing. I said it from the beginning. I didn't see where Spurs fans were getting the confidence from. The manager has changed, the players are still here. But the question I wanted to ask you guys was, obviously Tudor is going to play 3 at the back for the next foreseeable future. Is that going to work after what we witnessed today?
It's funny because a lot of fans were saying that I know it doesn't make sense to have the back 3 if we haven't got the players for it. And at the moment, because we're so light in areas and at the back, that might be a detriment if we continue to play with the back 3 of the system. We've got a lot of midfielders, yes, but at the same time, going down those sides, like Jordan said, there's not a lot of progression. And for me, it's a bit of a cop-out if you play down the sides a lot of the time, because you're showing no bravery by playing centrally. And essentially, that's what we did throughout the whole game. It's pretty much what Frank got sacked for, because he was very risk-averse. And he wanted to pump it long. He wanted to go down the sides. He wanted to get crosses into the box, because he felt that that's the greatest XG type of creation you can do if you put balls into the box. And yeah, I think we just need to kind of vary the way we attack. But to be fair to Tudor, I mean, there isn't many games or many training sessions he's going to be able to do before he makes that impact. I said Fulham's got to be the game where we really look at him, not this game. But essentially, yeah, we do need to have a bit more attacking patterns of play. Like, in my opinion, we can't just be one-dimensional as we saw today. We need to have a little bit more, because otherwise teams are going to come to us and we're like, we know how Spurs are going to play. Do you know what I mean?
And that's part of the problem we're going to have with Tudor as well. People have to understand there's only 11 games to go. He's not going to be able to input too many systems and styles to have patterns being shown, because a lot of the players that he's got available aren't the best players available, probably not the ones you'd ideally want to create sort of your attacking front 3 with. And when you look at what the patterns could be, is these players have been playing in such a reductive system over the last 6 or 7 months. I think the players are they're not even switching on to a lot of the things that maybe he's been telling them to do. Because you said it, he's trying to get them to push up the pitch, but they've been so used to what Frank's doing that they're just automatically going into the way that Frank was making some of them play. And, in that first half, a lot of the times, I think what happened ultimately was the inevitable. Because we saw in the first half, we were good defensively, but that's only it. We were good defensively. Every time we got on the ball, we couldn't do nothing. And, there's only so long in the game that you can go where you're not going to be able to create on the ball. So ultimately, if we couldn't keep control of the ball, we couldn't build up properly, we were always going to lose the game the way that we did. So
a quick super chat before we carry on is from Chameleon Eyes again, says, effing hate our club. Disgusting, pathetic, spineless, a lot of the players. Wolves drag out a 2-2, but we can't even do better than a 4-1 against our rivals. Disgusting. Look, we have to talk about Jogi Sheen, who came in today in the back 3. I think George said it in the first half. He was a bit hesitant about him, and then second half he showed his true colours. What do you do about a player like that when obviously his agent talks a lot, and then when he comes in,
you have to play the guy. It's as simple as that. We don't have that many options at the moment at the back. He's our only like natural.
he played him central there.
I know, but I mean, he's our only natural defender.
Yeah.
And this is why the questions are about the back 3, because if you don't have the system or the players, to play a back 3, then why force it? Do you know what I mean?
I don't blame him. I don't blame him for playing a back 3, especially against Arsenal. You've got to look at it and you go, is there one way that you're going to have to try to stop their attack? It's probably like that, especially with the players that we've got available. They're not used to playing with a back four.
You mean back three? They're not used to playing.
No,
with
they're
back
not
three.
playing. I mean, when you look at Dragusin, he's more suited to a back three.
He is.
I think when you look at Archie Gray, if you're going to play him, you don't really want him as a right. I wouldn't play him as right back. I'd rather him be as a right wing back because then he has less space to cover and work with. It made sense for what Tudor was trying to do, and plus his system's always been a back three. If you've ever looked at him, I think he's only ever played one. He's started one game in his career as a back four, so it was always going to go that way. I just think the midfield was the biggest issue when you have too many central players that like none of them, we saw it like Gallagher and Sarr a lot of the times they weren't pressing at the right times, they weren't picking up the ball and looking to go forward with it, they were passing it back and then it was moving a little bit slow. And yeah, honestly man, I'm so tired of watching Spurs sometimes. It's so poor. It is so poor at times.
I just think Dragusin, like we were saying before in the stream, we were saying he's limited on the ball. Off the ball is fine. Like as you said, essentially as a back three, if he's got someone playing next to him that's like senior, maybe like when Romero comes back, I know he's not available for the next few games, that he might look a little bit better in the back three playing centrally with Romero on his right or even Danso when he gets back fitter. But like on the ball, as I said before, I just have a lot of questions about his ability.
Super chat, which for me and you, Olu. Hey Marlon, Ash, anything fun happened today? I'm going to ask a question, a really odd question. Van de Ven.
It's not that odd. We're gone.
So a lot of people want to blame Romero and have been scapegoating Romero for the last few weeks. But Van de Ven was captain today. A question's got to be asked about him as well. The same way that Van de Ven get asked questions. Because what did Van de Ven actually do today when you think about it?
I think, so when you talk about systems, I think Van de Ven's someone that definitely struggles in the back three. I think he's sort of understanding where his role is and his position. He tends to pull himself a bit too far out wide sometimes, but then sometimes he's a bit too deep. I think he struggles with the positional awareness on there, and today we saw that because Saka, he was struggling with this connection to Spence and the overlap that Saka was bringing with Timber. They found themselves with way too much space in behind, and he got caught. He got caught quite a few times today. So I mean, a conversation has to be had about his performance, most definitely. I
think with Van de Ven though, he's got so much credit in the bank. I think that's the reason. Yeah, I think that's the reason why fans won't look at Van de Ven as the problem compared to Romero. He's got more baggage.
This is why I'm asking the question, because you look at the performance today of Van de Ven, and if Romero drops that performance, everyone's like, Romero this, Romero that, and Van de Ven did nothing today. And he's been quite awful for the last few games. This is not just a one-off, but yeah, he seems to get
away with it.
Dragusin's going to be the one highlighted today.
Yeah, of course.
But when you look at the goals where they've come from, which like Van de Ven, like you said, is being caught out of position. And nothing will be said about him and about how he's dropped his performances since that Gary Neville interview.
Do you know what it is though? I will say for Van de Ven, because of the amount of times he saved us this season for one, and you know,
so is Romero.
Romero saved us, but he's conceded a lot of goals. That's the problem. Even last season, when you look at Romero, there's a lot of moments you look at Romero and say he's been good, but he does actually make a lot of mistakes that concedes directly to goals. Whereas Van de Ven, I would say that he makes minimal mistakes leading directly to goals. Maybe does definitely get caught out of position a few times, but there's a lot of times where we're saved because of his performances. So today was a concern, and definitely we can have a conversation about his performance, but across sort of the period of a season, I think Van de Ven's been more than good enough.
So, Conor Gallagher, our only January signing. Quite a few Spurs fans were unhappy with the signing, but yeah, he seemed to be, him and Sousa were the only ones that came in. Yet he was dragged off after, 60 minutes? Is this another mistake from the club at the moment for what we needed?
Yeah, because we already had that profile, didn't we? We had the profile in Sarr, we had that profile in Bergvall, we've had that profile in Archie Gray, we've had that profile in... I mean, the list goes on. Like, our whole midfield are box-to-box midfielders, you know? Other than Xavi Simons, he's the only person who has a little level of technicality where he can not just carry the ball, he can use, like the amount of times I saw Xavi getting the ball and switch it.
Yeah.
Saw maybe one or two times, but you just know that's not his protocol. You know that's not his, it's something that he does frequently. And that's what the whole fan base was crying out for. Someone that can progress the ball from a deeper position to allow it to connect to our front line. Because at one point I did see our 3 centre-backs, a gap in between the midfield and then the attacks. Like 4 or 5 attackers up top, like waiting for the ball. And that's not just this game. I've seen it in previous games as well. So Conor Gallagher, whether you like him, some people say he's a good professional, he's a good player, you know, he's a solid signing, and he's something that we need, you know. We talk about leaders, etc. None of that matters, you know. If you can't get on the ball and you can't progress the ball, then what good are you to us?
Do you know what? For me, I had a conversation with Sava going back in like maybe September, when there was a conversation regarding whether he should be signed in the summer, and I said we've got too many players like him. Sarr is pretty much the exact player, exactly like him in his style, with his ability, his physicality, maybe not the proven side of Premier League and that side of things, but what Conor Gallagher gives you is pretty much what most of our other midfielders give you. I didn't see the point in the signing, and I mean today, again, I'm not going to sit here and scapegoat him and talk about his performance, but
looking at the gap between Spurs and Arsenal, that's why I brought him up a little bit, because he was our only signing considering.
Oh yeah. I just mean in general, like
I wasn't blaming him for the game.
Oh no, no. And that's the thing. I'm not gonna sit here and scapegoat him and be like, yeah, he's the reason why we lost or anything like that, because he's not. But ultimately, he's just another sign of Spurs not being ambitious in the window, not making the right signings, and ultimately, it's gonna. You know, when we look back in a couple of years, it's gonna be like, another bad signing from Spurs.
I'll add to that. I think it shows that, footballing-wise, they don't have a clear identity. Does that make sense? Because we talk about, but what's the plan? What's the strategic plan moving forward? I think it correlates to how they pick managers, how they pick their directors of football, and how the directors of football pick the players. Where, yes, we had an identity where we wanted to pick the best young players in Europe and we wanted them to play for Tottenham. But in terms of style, moving forward, we've moved from an Ange where Langer's bought a lot of attacking players for him and defenders that suit that attacking style, and then gone in the opposite direction in a manager like, they say, John the Pragmatist and Thomas Frank. You know, it's a different style. But then now, Igor Tudor, again, still different to the players that we brought in. So that manager, again, that we brought in, does he suit the style of players that we have?
Well, they've gone for Paratici's recommendation, didn't they, with the manager? And Paratici's never been great at picking managers. George, before I let you go, where do Spurs go from here?
Where do Spurs go? I don't know. Honestly, what to expect from Spurs over the next couple of weeks is really up in the air. Just hopefully a better performance than today, a better performance than the last couple of weeks, just more effort, being that, you know, we need to be 20, 30% better, let alone 1 or 2% better. We need to just take it up a level, and hopefully Fulham away presents that opportunity. We play better away from home. If it's not a win, we need a draw. Every point counts, and you know, it's poor today, honestly, people. But yeah, look, I am gonna head out. I do need to go. I'm not running, honestly. I do need to go. But yeah, look, make sure you smash the likes before you guys head out, man. Or before I head out, smash the